Hello everyone, Johnny Minder here. And today we are continuing to learn Japanese with Kirby's Adventure. Last time we played level 1 almost fully, except level again in Kirby games is the same as word in others, except for the boss. So today we'll tackle that and then go from that. But first, since last time we've seen some kanji in-game, we are studying them now, first and foremost. Not sure if we'll see them all or all in part, we'll see depending on how long it takes. And then we'll continue playing the game. So I'll open our usual Wiktionary first and foremost. I also opened the page of the WeKirby page for the museum, so we can copy the kanji from there. And we start from this one. But of course, just like previous times, we'll actually start from its components. First, we have this one. As you might have noticed, it's a cross. You might remember from last time that we've mentioned character of the cross, which is the number 10. And yes, this is the one. So we can see its stroke order quite easy. Left to right, and then top to bottom. Left to right, top to bottom. As you can see also with the animation. I think there are also, yes, also the stroke order here with the arrows. As for its origin, first it used to be just a vertical line. Then they added a dot, a knot in the middle, and that one later became the horizontal stroke we can see nowadays in the character. Just a vertical line in origin to contrast with the horizontal one of the number 1. We can see its readings. We have first and foremost the Go-on, which is the most used one of the Onyomi, and so the Chinese readings. Ju, and it's how you say 10 when it's on its own, and also with accented, so Ju. When used on its own, or also, of course, with counters of Chinese origin. Then we technically also have, we have this so-called Kanyon, which are readings that aren't strictly from Chinese, but are derived from the Chinese readings, and then simply got adapted in Japanese and then became of common use. In the case of our kanji, it's simply one form, which is ju with a small tsu at the end, because it's actually ju and then the doubling of the following consonant found in when combined with certain counters, as we'll eventually see, and also ji with a small tsu, same, but ji it G with the small tsu is an older reading, so can still be heard, but the more common one is Ju. Then we ignore the canon since it's barely used, if at all. There's also kunyomi, so of strictly Japanese origin reading, to, accented on the first one, but it's barely used nowadays. The only usage that immediately comes to mind is when children count their age up to 10 with the numerals combined with the general purpose counter 2. But for the number 10, we have what technically is the kunyomi reading, to accented. But don't particularly mind it. The most remember in particular that the pronunciation from Chinese Ju, and of course then we'll eventually see also the shortened forms with the doubling of the consonant when the time comes for that. Could also be a pictogram of a needle. I've seen it also getting the meaning of, according to some theories of gathering in compounds, like the one in phonosemantic compounds, like the one we'll see, because most likely gather, as in, if we have 10 of a thing, it's a gathering technically. And yes, as we'll see, it's useful to keep that in mind for the phonosemantic compounds. But yeah, we've seen the 10. Now we can see the other part of our kanji, which is this. But of course, we have to further go back since it's a compound. And technically, this one is also a compound, as in most likely an ideogrammic compound, so simply of two pictograms, two or more pictograms combined together. So first and foremost, we have to see the one for field. Let's see its stroke order. Different between Japanese and Chinese. In Japanese, it's like this: top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, then top to bottom, left to right, left to right. Top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, left to right. Even if we have, no, we don't even have the stroke order with the other one, also because of the difference with Chinese. And it's simply a pictogram of a field divided into 4 sections. You can see it's practically the same. And we are talking about fields in Japan, but also China. The most common field is the rice field. And so this kanji has that meaning in particular. It's kunyomi, so strictly Japanese reading is ta. Accented should be. Let's check. Yes. Rice field. You have definitely heard it in some Japanese surnames like Tanaka. Also in Yamada, of course, with the duck 10 the voicing of the consonant because it's a compound. But yes, ta means rice field when used on its own. And then when used in Chinese compounds, we have the onyomi, particularly the go on, then. We can see some for example, let's see. I was trying to find it. For example, this word shinden, unaccented, which means newly cultivated field, because we have the kanji first, which means new, and then of course the one for field, especially rice field. Then from that we can see this kanji. We don't even see the stroke order here, but I'll tell you how it's written. You start from the top with the left to right stroke, then should be top to bottom with the one at the bottom on the left, then left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke. Then we should have the top to bottom one that crosses them all, then left to right, and with the comma at the end. But we can check it also somewhere else if I can. Let's see if I can find it, just so we are completely sure. Okay, let's see. Maybe even no, the Japanese Wikipedia doesn't have it. Let's try searching literally stroke order. Of course, it's technically in Chinese, so could be slightly different in Japanese, but yes, as you can see. Yes, okay. At least in Chinese, and I think it could be the same in Japanese, we actually have the crossing stroke from the top at the end before the comma. So left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, top to bottom, crossing everything, and then the comma. Okay. You simply have to remember it just because it's found in other kanji as a component, as we'll see. The original form was this one, rice field, and then a field, and then a bud at the top, vegetation. The stroke at the top used to be this one, top to bottom, left to right as a single stroke, top to bottom, and then finally the top to bottom one crossing in the middle. But yes, just like this one isn't used on its own as in Japanese. As we'll eventually see, it's part of the grass radical. Also, this one isn't used on its own in Japanese, if I recall. Well, it's technically used, but it's part of the so-called Jinmeiyo kanji. So, kanji used for people's names and can be used as such, but sometimes we also find there some kanji that are simply studied because they are part again of other kanji. But yes, since it was a field with a bud at the top, the meaning becomes in other compounds to spread, as we'll see soon, when combined with combined with this other part, it becomes this combination means to scatter, to diffuse. This other part interests us because it's actually used common use kanji in Japanese, joyo kanji. It's written like this, left to right, top to bottom, and then the comma. Left to right, top to bottom, and then the comma, as you can see also in the animation. And there are different theories. The most common one is a hand with an additional line, emphasizing potentially the elbow, and so because then we'll get kanji derived from that with that meaning, but it doesn't interest us. For now, it's one of the different forms in Chinese in kanji that means hand, not the one used as a word on its own, because on its own it actually becomes pronounced as sun. The onyomi, the Chinese reading, becomes inch, or slightly more compared to inch in the Western measurement, because as we can see here, this one is 3.03 centimeters, but more or less an inch, and as such is used as a counter. For example, if we search isun, it's 1 sun, so around 3 centimeters. Isun, accented on the sun. Again, of course, we have the it with the doubling of the following consonant, because from ichi, ichi sun, then of course it was easier to double the consonant instead. Isun. Interesting enough, written with the same kanji technically, but luckily in Japanese nowadays it's written simply using kana alone. We have the word chotto, accented on the first, chotto, which means a little, a bit, slightly. And so also just a minute, for a moment, briefly, and other meanings, but the fundamental one is a little, a bit. Not surprising that the word that the combination that is technically 1 inch was given this combined reading. And yes, that's it for this kanji. The kunyomi is barely heard, if at all, honestly. So we'll ignore it for now. And yes, when combined with the kanji we have seen of the field with the bud, becomes to scatter, to diffuse. And so we finally have the components of our kanji seen in game last time. As you can see here, the stroke order becomes more complex, but of course, as usual, it's simply a matter of writing the kanji step by step, and of course, as usual, left to right, top to bottom, also when it comes to the individual parts of the different parts of the phonosemantic compound. So we have first the kanji for 10. Then we have the one of the field with the bud. As you can see here, it's written in this order, in this case. Well, and pay attention that also it, unlike the when written on its own, it stops at the bottom, doesn't continue. So pay attention to that detail. Then, of course, we add this additional comma. And last but not least, we have the soon, the end. You can see also here the stroke order with the arrows. Phonosemantic compound. So we have the semantic 10. Some also say gather. And then the phonetic at the right, which is our field with the bud and the hand. Some also say that there's also, it also contributes to the meaning. So the scatter we have seen. The final meaning of the compound becomes wide, broad, extensive. Also gambling by extension, but never mind that. And so yes, wide, broad, extensive, because potentially there are a lot of things and they are scattered widely, broadly, extensively. We have some kunyomi, strictly Japanese reading, that aren't usually used with this kanji. It's more often than not simply found in compounds with the Chinese reading haku. And also on its own, nope. And it's part of our compound, which you can see in the word hakubutsu. Hakubutsu on its own can also be an abbreviation for natural history, but never mind that meaning for now because it's related to another word. The original meaning is wide learning, broad area of learning. And so it's not surprising that it's then used in the word just to let you know the accent for hakubutsu on its own, it's on the ku, so hakubutsu. And then it's used in the word hakubutsu kan, which is the one we have seen. Butsu, again, is simply the one we have already studied for mono, thing, as in object, contrast with koto. We'll eventually see that kanji as well. And here, of course, since it's a Chinese compound with its Chinese reading, butsu, the most common one. And so we don't have to check butsu. We have to check, on the other hand, kan. So let's open that. Okay. First, let's check its radical. We'll come back to this form of it in a second. First, let's see it as its own kanji. And actually, we'll see its components, of course. This is the kanji for to eat, the verb to eat. It's better to see first its origin. Originally, it was this pictogram or diagramming compound. We have a mouth at the top, as you can see here, and at the bottom, a bowl of rice on a stand. But then it further evolved, and so from the components which are this one, again simply this, there are different theories, but the one I've seen the most, also because of another kanji we'll eventually see, is an open mouth reversed, upside down. And then there was this this part. But just to let you know, again, this, as we can also see in its page, is not used on its own in Japanese, just as part of other kanji. And then at the bottom, this one, the bowl of rice on a stand. Which would be written, we have at the top nowadays white, as we have seen before. So write it just like white, come at the top, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, left to right. And then at the bottom, another element which we won't check now, but to write it, it would be left to right, and then top to bottom, left to right as a single stroke. Also not used on its own. But unfortunately, nowadays it has changed, so we still have the mouth written with those strokes, those 3 strokes, the inverted mouth, and then another unrelated kanji, which we'll briefly see. In this case, we originally had a person and an eye at the top. So a person looking back, as we'll eventually see, it's similar but unrelated to the other kanji, which is actually used for the verb to see, but we aren't checking that now. This also isn't used on its own in Japanese. And so we can finally see how to write the kanji for to eat. At the top, the slanted, then the other slanted, then the comma, the horizontal stroke of the mouth when written on, inverted mouth when written on its own. Then left to right, top to bottom, left to right, left to right. Let's wait that it goes back. Okay. Then top to bottom with this part. Then this kind of inverted comma. And then this big, kind of a big comma, but much bigger. So again, slanted, the comma. Left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke. Left to right, top to bottom with this part. Slanted, and then slanted. Let's see if we can also... Yes, we also have the stroke order. Okay, perfect. as you can see also with the arrows, as usual. Let's see its readings. We technically have several Chinese readings, but the one used most often, almost exclusively, is shoku. On its own, unaccented. Food stuff, eating, appetite. Also a counter for meal portion, even though it's not seen as often as other counters. Technically, there's also the Jiki reading, but that one is seen more in Buddhist terms, if at all. The other ones barely seen, if at all. And then we have several technically strictly Japanese readings, but also meanings technically. We'll see some of them, but the most important one, which is the one you have to remember first and foremost, is taberu, accented, so on the be, taberu, which is to eat, the most common form of the verb to eat. We also have ku, accented on the, also accented. Also to eat, but is a male term or language, and then other extended meanings. Kurau, unaccented in this case. Also to eat, to drink, and other extended meanings. But it's a vulgar term, so you might have heard it in anime and so on, especially in the extended meanings of receiving a blow, to be on the receiving end of something undesirable, undergo trouble. And then we also have hamu, accented on the first one, which means to eat fodder, grass of animals. But yes, the one you really have to remember for now is taberu, as that's the verb to eat. We can also have a word, a compound technically, combining its continuative form. Since it's a ru verb, Ichidan verb, we drop the ru, so we have tabe, and then add mono. The compound becomes accented on the mo, tabe mo no, tabe mono. And it's the noun for food, the most common way to say food. Literally, thing, object, to eat, that you eat. Okay. Now we can see its reduced form. This is the most common one nowadays. There's also another one seen in some kanji even nowadays, but less often. So we stick to this one for now. It's written practically the same, slanted, the comma, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom with this slanted upward, and then a comma, and it ends there, because it's shortened when it's on the left of, it's the left component of a kanji. Slanted, comma, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, slanted upwards, and a comma. Same meaning, it's just the combining form. And then we have this other part. As it's also seen here, there's a related noun with a similar origin, but we'll stick to this one in this case. We have at the top You can see it also on its own, but on its own it's not used in Japanese. A roof, written like this, the comma, the other inverted comma, and then left to right, and this part, ending part, comma, inverted comma, left to right with this ending part. And this is, more often than not, here it says a pictogram of a house, and in compounds it's practically similar to a roof. And the part at the bottom would have technically a meaning of its own, but in this case it's simply a pictogram, the image of several rooms, and that's the same also in the similar yet distinct kanji. We won't see it today. We can see the stroke order, the comma again, inverted comma, can go here, comma, inverted comma, left to right, and this ending part. Then we go top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom as a single stroke, left to right, so we close this first part, and then the same, left to right, top to bottom, left to right to close the other one. As you can see also here with the arrows. And so with we see a roof, multiple rooms under a roof, and so an official building. But on its own, by extension, this kanji becomes the word for, as we'll see in a second, kan, accented, it's Chinese reading, and means government service, and also as a government official. Can also be found in certain compounds. For example, just to give you, okay, should be this one. Keisatsu-kan, accented on the tsu. Of course, since the tsu is then followed by kan, the u is between unvoiced consonants, so is barely heard, if at all. And because of that, the accent can go further back on the sa, because of course it's difficult to hear it if the vowel is barely heard, if at all. So keisatsu-kan. Keisatsu on its own, we won't check it now, of course, considering also how difficult it is, means police. And so with the official, government official, we have the word for police officer. And then we also have strictly Japanese reading, tsukasa, unaccented, yes, unaccented, which means of office, official, usually written with this kanji or another one, chief, head, but the fundamental meaning is office, official, again as seen also for its Chinese reading. With that, combined with our tweet, our kanji for tweet as the radical, we get this kanji. Of course, again, we write simply the individual parts in the usual order, as if they were written on their own. So slanted. Here it's written as a vertical line, but written by when you write it with your hand, it should be a comma. Left to right, top to bottom, left to right, left to right, top to bottom with this additional slanted part, and then the comma, because it's shortened. And then we have top to bottom. Again, should be usually a comma when you write it by hand. Then inverted comma, and left to right with this additional part. Here, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right. So yes, simply the order of the individual parts. And yes, it's simply combining those parts. And the meaning, the reading, the Chinese reading is of course kan, because the part on the right is the semantic, is the phonetic one. Some say also semantic, but fundamentally the phonetic one. So you see it and you can tell that it's written, its reading is kan. The one on the left, to eat. And its meaning, well, we have first and foremost, with its Chinese reading kan, accented. The meaning is as a suffix, usually. It's a large building, public building, hall, which is the one we'll see in a second in our word. On its own, it gets the reading yakata. Technically, Japanese, strictly Japanese compound from ya, house, a hut structure, plus kata. Kata, by the way, accented on the last, while ya is accented. Kata means shape, form. So, literally, house shape. And the word yakata nowadays means mansion, palace, more mansion than palace usually, because there is another word for palace. Manor house, also another one for castle, so don't mind it. The fundamental meaning is mansion, then other extended ones. But yes, you'll more often than not see it as a suffix, kan, for public buildings, large buildings, halls, like in our starting word, hakubutsu kan. So we'll see it again. Hakubutsu kan. Also here, since it's the accent would be on the tsu, but if the tsu is barely heard, if at all, then it can move on the preceding bu instead. Hakubutsu kan. And yes, museum, because as we have seen, hakubutsu, its original meaning on its own was wide learning, broad area of learning. And so the public building, the large building of wide learning, a museum. Okay, I'd say that, yeah, we can see the other kanji next time. We can take the break immediately, so when we are back, let's close this one for now. So when we are back in around 5 minutes, we'll start and have slightly more time to actually play the game. Okay, see you in 5 minutes. And we are back. And so now we can actually start the game. Can get platinum points in Italian since it's already in Japanese the game like this. I didn't change the language of my system. Okay, we can start the game. Again, our usual intro, which we're skipping. We can open our save file, still on level, and so world 1, Vegetable Valley. Can skip the intro. I'm curious before going against the boss, and also because we can get a copy ability this way to enter the museum again. And yes, now it shows it again, the explanation. And so we can actually start from here. Hakubutsu-kan. We have already seen it before. It's the word for museum, as explained in the previous part, and we've seen the kanji. You can see how they're written in-game. We have the sentence, the writing, which says Ironna teki no, Ironna tokugi, Sonna tokugi o motta teki tachi o hiro azayaka ni kazatte mimashita. And technically it stops there. Actually, it stopped after the very first line, so we'll see that first, then I'll read the second one again, the second part, and then we'll read the last one. Ironna is a shortened form for a word we have seen before. Iro should be unaccented based on what we have seen previously, but we'll check. Which means literally is a repetition of the word iro. Iro on its own should be accented on the last one, yes. So color, but then by extension, and that's its actual meaning, becomes various, a variety of, all sorts of, many, different. And it's an adjective, and in this case it's a shortened form for the iro na, replaces the second iro with n, so ironna. I'll also check it in the dictionary, which should have it, to check its accent, and of course it stays luckily unaccented. The meaning is the same, various. We put it into its we add na to then attach it to the following noun and modify it. Following noun, which is teki. We've seen it multiple times before. It's the word for opponent, rival, but in the case of this game, enemy, unaccented. So various enemies. Then we have the possessive particle postposition. As a reminder, just like, so they're practically like preposition is in English, but after, and so post position. Possessive, so of several enemies. Then we have again ironna, so various, and then a new name, tokugi. Tokugi should be a special skill, also literally when you see it's when it's written in Kanji, because it's a Chinese compound. Yes, literally special skill. Accented on the first one. Okay, so Tokugi. And so we have the first the first part, which is various skills, various special skills of various enemies. Then we get the other part. We get to the second part. Sonna Tokugi o motta tekitachi o hiro azayaka ni kazatte mimashita. First and foremost, we have Sonna, which is technically an abbreviation of the word Sono Yona. Sono Yona, from Sono Yo, we simply then have the na again, because it becomes an adjective. Sono Yo means that kind, because Yo means also way, method, appearing, looking. We have seen it with verbs last time. In this case, it's technically after a noun. Or maybe we have seen it actually after a noun last time also. And so like, similar to, would be form, style, design, also kind in a sense, also, even though there is also different word for that. But yes, and then of course before it, sono, that, as in the adjective, the demonstrative adjective. Sono, usually the distance far from the speaker, close to the listener, but also general distance for when referring to something that actually isn't there. There's also the use of the a distance, the one far from both the speaker and the listener, for such a usage, but with a certain distinction, but we'll eventually see it. The more common one is with the so. And yes, in this case we have an abbreviation, but the meaning is the same. Sono yo na becomes so na. So no yo becomes n. And then of course we have the na. Sonna, the meaning is the same. That kind. That kind of, also the sort of, like that, such. The fundamental meaning, also closer to the Japanese, is that sort of, that kind of. So we have that kind of something after that. In our case, again the word tokugi, special skill. So that kind of special skill. Then we have the particle o, the object particle o, also pronounced as wo in careful speech and singing. And then we have the verb motta. We have seen it several times before. The original verb, the dictionary form of the verb is motsu, accented, which means to hold, to take, to carry, and also, by extension, to possess, to have. Then we change it into its ta form. Being a verb, code verb, we have to follow the different rules. Luckily, being one ending in two, it's easier because it becomes a small su ta, so the doubling of the consonant and ta, motta, and the ta form, and so the past form of the verb. In this case, all this whole part, this first part of the sentence comes before a noun, and so it's actually the relative clause referring to the noun, modifying that noun. Noun, which is tekitachi. Again, teki, enemy. But then we add tachi. Tachi, which is the most common. There are other ones, but the one used with most words is this one. It's a pluralizing suffix. Here it says especially for people and animals, but it makes sense since, as we have seen, when not needed to specify it, we simply can infer the plural. We have either the singular or the plural when using the word on its own. But in this case, they wanted to specify it, and so we have tekitachi. They being between two unvoiced consonants becomes barely heard if at all. Tekitachi. Not sure about its. I would say unaccented, but I'm not completely sure. And of course, we won't find the word tekitachi in dictionaries. Let's guess for now that it's unaccented, just like the key. And so the enemies who who had that kind of special abilities. Then we have the object particle o again. Then we have Hiro Asayaka ni. The word is Hiro Asayaka, a compound adjective in this case. As you might have guessed, Hiro is again from the one from color. And then we have the adjective Asayaka accented on the za, because this is a rule of those adjectives, as we'll see, that end in ka. The accent is always on the third to last syllable. So, ignoring the ka, not the ya, the za in our case. Asayaka. Asayakana. Which means vivid, bright, brilliant, clear, fresh, vibrant. Other extended meanings. And in this case, we simply add Hiro to further specify that it's brightly colored, again vivid, and also colorful, brilliant, again. But yes, I'd say the closest translation is brightly colored. In this case, instead of adding the na to make the adjective, to then put it before a noun and modify that, we add ni, which is one of the ways we have seen with Hiro, for example, that you can also add a to when it comes to certain words, but the most common one to certain adjectives, the most common one is adding ni to make the adverb. So it becomes colorfully, vividly, even better. Let's go with vividly. With brightly colors. Could also be a translation. And then we finally see the verb of this longer sentence. Kazatte mimashita. First we have kazatte. I think maybe an accent that we see from kazaru, which means to decorate, to adorn, to ornament. And so by let's check its accent first and foremost. Yes, actually an accented, so kazaru. And by extension, to decorate becomes also to display, to exhibit, to arrange, to put on a show, and also other extended meanings that don't interest us for now. So, to display in our case, to exhibit, it's a museum after all. We change it into its te form, being a verb, codant verb. We have to follow the different rules, and in ru it becomes small su and then the te, kazarite, but it simply then got modified and became the double consonant. Kazatte, we have to turn it into its te form in this case to add the verb mimashita from miru. We have seen it before, funny enough, saying that it's funny to say that because its meaning is to see. Fundamental meaning, but when used after a te form of another verb, it becomes to try, literally do that action and see the result. It's a ru verb, ichidan verb, so we can drop the ru to get the continuational form. And then we use that to add the mashita, the polite form from masu, but as you can see from the ta at the end, it's ta form. To make the past in the polite register, tene go, you use instead of mas, which is the present, mashita. Mashita. Accented on the ma. Then of course we have the she, the e between unvoiced consonants, so barely heard if at all. So mashita. And so the translation becomes we have tried to display vividly with bright colors the enemies, plural, who holded, possessed, had those kind of special abilities. We can see the final part. お好きな特技をコピーしてください。First we have お好きな. The O is the usual honorific prefix, since we are in the polite register, we make it further polite. But we have the word itself, which is ski. As we have seen before, it's during the Legend of Zelda series, I think, not this one. It's na adjective, and so we add the na after it, which means liking, preferred, favorite. And it's the most common way to say that you like something. There's technically also the verb, which I've seen in the previous series. But more often than not, we have the structure someone, wa, something, ga, ski, da, ski des in the polite register, da in the plain one. Literally, as for someone, something is preferred, liked. So, in this case, we have your preferred. Also, the o can be sometimes used to the honorific o prefix can be used to say that, to point out that it's the other person, the one we are talking to, our listener, that the word refers to that to the listener. So we have the preferred, then again it modifies tokugi. Your preferred special ability, special skill. Your, again, implied also by the honorific prefix o. O is used mostly with words of strictly Japanese words. As we'll eventually see, go is mostly used with the Chinese words from Chinese. And so your preferred special ability, special skill, then the object particle o. And then we have the verb copy shite kudasai. Again, we have copy, from English copy, literally copy, as in the noun. To make the verb, we add the verb to do, and so literally to do copy, to copy. We change it into its te form. Being irregular, you simply have to remember it, that the te form of suru is shite. We turn it into its te form to then add kudasai. Kudasai, as we have seen, is technically from kudasaru, the honorific form, one honorific form of the verb to give, to confer, to bestow. In this case, since it comes after the te form of another verb, to do the favor of doing the action of the previous verb. Kudasaru ends in it's a u-verb, codan verb, but it's kind of irregular in the sense that, as are other honorific verbs, in the sense that to make its continuative form, we have to drop the ru and add i, so not kudasari, but kudasai. And that's technically an abbreviated form of Mase, Kudasai Mase, which would be the imperative form in the polite register, but except for a certain expression which we'll eventually see, more often than not we'll find these verbs technically in the continuative form, but because Mase is simply implied. And so literally it becomes to make the favor of copying, and then the rest of the phrase, it becomes the imperative, please copy. The imperative in the polite register, and so please copy instead of just copy. As with more the imperative in the plain speech, in plain register. So the translation becomes please copy. Oops, sorry. Let's go back to it. Moved a little too much. Please copy the special skill you prefer. In our case, we only have one in this particular museum, sword, and we are getting it. Okay. Now that we have seen that finally, since we had the kanji, we have finally also read the description, and we can face the boss of level 1, and so finally finish that. Of course, being level 1 in a Kirby game, the boss is as usual Wispy Wood, or a variant of him. Well, let's at least see some of its attacks. The usual ones, the apples that we need, the air blown, we used an apple and immediately defeated after all the sword slashes, and we get this a part of the star rod, but we'll see that when we actually read the story as part of the long intro we have seen of the game. But for now, let's get it and see Kirby's dance. In the bottom we can see Korea clear. We get the intro to Icecream Island. Kirby relaxing, imagining food, but then got hit by the enemy in his imagination. Okay, so we finally can start level 2, Icecream Island. We can immediately jump into level 1. Sorry, level 2, as in, so, which is usually word in other games. And oh, I see some comments in chat. Thank you, nice R827. Hope you and others enjoy this series and previews and future ones. And so yes, we can finally start Icecream level 2, the stage 1 of level 2, the second world, Icecream Island. Without further ado, checking the comment which I've finally seen after the explanation and the boss. Okay, we can avoid these explosive coconuts. I'm pretty sure they are, but of course it's not as easy to tell in this game. We can get these and get the ability Parasol. I didn't check against the boss if there were there was a writing, but I seriously doubt it, considering it's this game. In case we'll try it against the next one. If one shows up, then I can simply start another file and quickly get to the boss. But I seriously doubt it in the case of Kirby's Adventure. Okay, we can see this ability, Parasol. Parasoru in Japanese, as you can see on the top. From English. We have Toki ni wa Kasa o sashite o sanpo kibun. And I'm pretty sure it ends there. Despite it technically is missing a verb, or in this case the copula. So we'll see what it says there. First we have Toki. As I mentioned before, it means time. Should be accented on the second one, on the last syllable, so that we'll check. Time, hour, moment, occasion, case. Also other extended meanings, chance, opportunity. But the fundamental meaning is time. And yes, it's accented on the last one, Toki. Then we have two particles at once. First we have the particle ni, which means at, when used at a specific time. So in this case it's at when we say Toki ni, Toki combined with ni, it can mean either precisely at the time, because of the usage of ni as the particle of a precise time, at a specific moment, but also becomes sometimes, occasionally, on occasion, because most likely it's on times, plural, and so not specified, because again it's not necessary usually to specify the plural, and in this case it's not done. Usually it's done with persons, animals, as we said, we've seen when we mentioned tachi. And so it in this case I'd say it's occasionally, sometimes better, so because we keep the translation time. And then we have the topic particle wa, written as ha. And so as for sometimes becomes the topic of this sentence. Then we have the noun kasa. Should be accented on the first one, and it's the Japanese word for umbrella, also parasol. There isn't the distinction. Yes, accented on the first one. Then the object particle o, and then the verb sashite, from sasu, I think, unaccented, but I could be wrong, so we'll check. No, it's actually accented, if it's this one. There are several sasu actually, but in this case, and they're also actually all accented, so there isn't the issue. but in this case it's the verb. There are several meanings and also several kanji to distinguish some of these meanings. In this case, it's simply the verb that you have to use to open a parasol, an umbrella parasol. I try to find it also here in the dictionary. Yeah, in this case it would be technically to hold up an umbrella and so on, to put up, to raise, because one of its meanings is to raise, and so hold up an umbrella. We change it into its the form, being a verb, because on verb we have to follow the rules. Luckily it ends in su, so it's easy. We simply change it into she, and then add te, saste. When we have a verb in the te form, if it's unaccented, it stays unaccented. When it's accented, the accent falls is on the third to last syllable, so not te, no si, but the sa. In this case, the very first one. And so we turn it into its te form to have either the meaning and, to hold an umbrella, to hold the umbrella up and, or also could be, as we've seen, by holding, also while holding, and in this case it's while. In other languages like Italian, pretty sure also Spanish, we have the gerund forms of verbs, and yes, quite often the te form corresponds to the gerund of those verbs, and so all of these meanings. So while holding up, as for sometimes, while holding an umbrella up, or you, implicit, hold an umbrella up, and then we have technically a compound verb, a compound noun, sorry. First we have osampo. O again is simply the honorific prefix. The actual word is sampo. Should be unaccented, okay, sampo, which is the word for walk, stroll. And then we have another noun, which is kibun. Accented actually on the first, so kibun should be kibun, which means feeling, mood. So the translation becomes there could be actually an implied well, was more likely in this structure simply the copula. But when we translate it would be there is, you have. As for sometimes, you have the mood of walking, of while holding up an umbrella. You have and so that's the first part. The second one says Kono no ryoku o tsukai konasu koto ga dekiru kana. First, we have the compound verb tsukai konasu. We have seen it several times before, from tsukau, to use. Of course, we have to change it into its continuative form, being a u godan verb. We change the u into i, tsukai. To then attach the second verb, the compound, which is konasu, unaccented. While, as a reminder, the full compound verb is accented, so be careful. Konasu on its own would mean to digest, and so by extension to be able to use, to be good at, also to finish, to complete. As we have seen, it's so tsukai konasu means to master a tool. In our case, as we see, oops, sorry, I missed I skipped the first part. Oh well, we'll get back to it. To master a tool, in this case, we'll see to master this ability. And yes, this is the part that I skipped. Kono, which means this, the demonstrative adjective. We see again, it's a part of the kono, sono, ano, dono series. Ko, the distance close to the speaker. No, to make the adjective. As a reminder, by adding re instead kore, we have the demonstrative pronoun this. For example, kore wa, as for this. But in this case, we have the adjective, and so a following noun modified by it. No ryoku, which, as I mentioned, means ability. Should be accented when we have seen it last time. Yes, accented. Then we have the object particle o, and then the verb that I preemptively analyzed and explained and translated, tsukai konasu. So, to master this ability. Then we have the word koto, which means again thing, as in matter, fact. So the fact of the matter of mastering this ability. Then the subject particle ga, and last but not least, the main verb, the kiru, which again accented, means to be able to do, to be possible, and also other extended meanings. And this structure on the whole, verb plus koto ga dekiru means be able to do the action of that verb. We could also make the potential form, but of course this one being longer can also be politer, or could also simply be required instead of the potential form. Even though, as you can see, we are still in the plain speech. And last but not least, we have the particle kana. You might have recognized the ka. It's the ka seen in interrogative, is the interrogative particle. But in this case, it's combined with na, so it becomes kana, the full particle. And it also exprimes technically a question, but a dubitative one. So I wonder if, or also should I, is it? And so the translation becomes I wonder if you, implied, can master this ability. And so we have the explanation of Parasol. So we can continue. With Parasol, it's quite useful in this stage, and of course that's why they gave it to us in that technically bonus room, to avoid getting hit by the falling coconuts. Then we have this sword enemy. All these enemies can easily get rid of them thanks to Parasol. Of course, then the other enemy with the Parasol gets us. We have Crash here, which we have seen it before, but I show it just for a second again. It's a description. Really funny. Love the icon, the ability icons at the bottom, and also other status. Using my sliding to avoid having to use the ability. We technically have another ability there, but I don't want to get it for now. Let's keep Crash and see if we can actually use it. Okay, we don't have anything to use it on. It was technically those enemies before. We kept it, so we use it on the next stage. In the next stage. And yes, we have completed, finished and completed. We'll see, as we'll see, finish is just a flag. Complete is also the door changing color, as we might eventually see. I don't think we have seen, this wasn't unlocked before. If it was, we simply tackle it now. But before that, I want to point the attention towards that. It's the door that leads us back to the previous world. This one to the next one. And so we have the writings Modoru. I think actually accented, so Modoru. Because we have seen it also before. But we'll check, which means to go back, to return. Yes, accented. And so yes, it's the door that you use to go back, to return. And on this one we see Susumu. I think this one is unaccented, but we'll check. Yes, unaccented. Which means the opposite, to advance, to go forward, and other extended meanings, but this is the fundamental one, to advance, to go forward. And so we use this door to go forward, to go to the next level. Okay, we can tackle this minigame and see, of course, its description. Its title is Tamago kiゃっちゃ. Tamago means egg, Let's check its accent as usual. Okay. Accented on the second one, so on the tamago. And then we have Chiaccia, which it's actually from, despite being written in hiragana, it's from Chiaccia with a long A at the end, and it's the word catcher from English. First, we have the usually the long A at the end, because of course we have the sound in English. They don't have it in Japanese, so it becomes long A. And also this kya, which is the way in which in these words like catcher, for example, also in Catherine, the name of bird in Japanese, Catherine would be, so to have this combination k and a, the vowel a in English. So it would be Chiaccia with the long a, written in katakana usually, but here for stylistic choice, to make it cuter, to make it consistent with also the tamago, which is usually in hiragana when not written in kanji, because of course there is a kanji for it, and also with shorten it, but the meaning is egg catcher, which should be also its English name. Let's see its description. Botan o oshite kabi no kuchi o okiku hirako. We have first and foremost botan, unaccented, we have seen it multiple times. Button, pat from Portuguese, and that's why it's different compared to English in its Japanese version, but the meaning is still button. Then the object particle o, then the verb oste from osu should be unaccented. We have seen it multiple times since it's the verb usually found with buttons, as in the buttons of a controller, to push a button. Should be unaccented, yes, unaccented. We change it into the form, being a verb, codan verb, we have to follow the rules. It's in su, so oshite. Of course, the e between unvoiced consonants is barely heard, if at all, so oshite. In this case, I'd say by pressing the button. Kabi, Kirby. Then the possessive particle no, of Kirby. Kuchi, which I've seen, again the is barely heard, if at all, because it's between unvoiced consonants. We have seen it when we have studied its kanji, means mouth, should be actually unaccented, sorry. The mouth of Kirby, then the object particle o. Then we have okiku, from, we have seen it before the word oki, the adjective, big, large, great, and also extended meanings, but the fundamental one is big. In this case, we drop the e, add the ku, and so in this particular case it's used to make the adverb form of a true adjective, a I adjective. So, largely, since we are talking about wide should be better in English. Open, because it's referred to the mouth. Widely. And of course, then we have the verb, which is hirako, from hiraku. Let's see its accent, but I think unaccented, we'll see. And it means to open. Actually, accented, okay. Hiraku. To open, and then several extended meanings from that. We also have another verb with the same meaning, which is akeru. That one might be, yes, that one is unaccented. To open again, for example, a door, to unwrap something, a package, to unlock, so again, also of a door. To open for a business, and other extended meanings. So yes, the meaning is actually the same, at least in the fundamental ones. As we'll see, there are some differences in usages, but both have the fundamental meaning, to open, and this one are the transitive form of the verbs. Of course, then we change it into, it's a U verb colon verb, so we can change the U into O, U, so long O, the volitional form. So in this case, the most common one, let's. So this first part means by pressing the button, let's open Kirby's mouth, the mouth of Kirby, wide. Then we have the rest of a second one, second sentence. Tamago to bakudan ga futte kuru kara, umaku tamago dake kyachi shiyou. Again, we have tamago, egg. Then we have the particle to, which means and, to connect two nouns. As a reminder, we have seen, I mentioned before, that with verbs, to have the meaning and, one of the ways, there are other ones, the most common one is the te form of a verb. So we have eggs and bakudan should be unaccented, but we'll check, means bomb. Yes, unaccented. Then we have the subject particle ga, and so the subject particle is for both tamago and bakudan, eggs and bombs. Then we have a verb, futte kuru, from furu. Could be, actually, let's check its accent. Furu means to fall, to come down. Okay, accented actually, so furu. We change it into its te form, being a U verb, codant verb. There are the different rules. Being in ru, as we have seen before, double consonant te, futte. We change it into its te form to then add the verb kuru, which means to come. And as a reminder, it's also the other irregular verb, completely irregular verb along with suru, to do. Yes means to come. And so, in this case, eggs and bombs come by falling down. Simply fall down, but the kuru adds the direction in which they come, and so in this case they come towards Kirby. Then we have kara. Kara, which is in this case, since it's after a verb, because. As we have seen, another form to say because is node, but we see the distinction when the time comes. Both their fundamental meaning is because anyway. So, because eggs and bombs come by falling down, fall down towards Kirby. Umaku from umai could actually be unaccented. No, it's accented, so I was right. Umai, which has the fundamental its meaning is skillful. It's an adjective. But with another kanji, it can also mean delicious, tasty. In our case, let's focus on the skillful meaning. Again, we change, we drop the e and add ku to make the adverb. It's the adverb skillfully. Again, we have tamago, eggs. Then we have the particle dake, which means only, just, merely, simply, and so on. In this case, unlike shika, which we have seen before, shika always required a negative verb because it was more of a no more than, I think. I'll check just to be sure. Also the translation given by the dictionary. No more than, yes, it's nothing but, because again, always with the negative verb. Luckily, dake is only and with affirmative verb, so easier to use. But it was worth mentioning that again, since we have already seen it as a review. Only eggs. Then we have kyachi. Of course, from English, catch. Should be accented on the kya. Yes, accented on the kya. And as we can see again, the kya to make the sound ke. And of course, in Japanese also a double consonant, since they have it, they added it, also based most likely on the way catch is written. In English, double consonants don't exist, so it's an addition made by Japanese. And then catch, as in the noun, but we can add the verb suru to make the verb, literally to do catch, to catch. Then we turn the verb suru into its volitional form. Again, suru is irregular, so we simply have to remember that the volitional form is shi plus yo, u, so long yo. Reminder that yo is the part that we add to ru verbs, ichidan verbs for the volitional. And so, again, means let's. The translation becomes because eggs and bombs fall down towards Kirby, fall down and come, literally, but the kuru simply indicates the direction, so towards Kirby. Let's skillfully, the umaku, let's skillfully catch only the eggs. Then we have the final part. Bakudan o tabete wa ikenai yo. Again, we have bakudan, bombs, bomb, but in this case, as we see, they're plural. Then the opposite particle o. And then we get the verb. Funny enough, one of the of those we have studied also the kanji today. From taberu, to eat, accented as we have seen. We make the te form. It's a ru verb, ichidan verb, and so we can simply drop the ru and add the te. And so, careful that the accent, when in its dictionary form, is taberu. But by adding the te, the accent falls on the third to last syllable, and so goes one before. Tabete. On the ta. Tabete. Then we add wa. When we add the particle wa to the te form of a verb, we technically get another conditional form. If you eat, but as we'll see, it's used in a specific construction, unlike other conditional forms which are used usually. But yes, the meaning should be, I'll also check it in the dictionary just to be sure, but yes, te wa means if. If you eat, then we have ikenai. Ikenai technically comes from the verb iku, to go. But in this case, it's not a simple to go, but is more like to go well. Then we change its u verb, godan verb, so we can change the u into e and add ru, even though we can see it because of further conjugations here, to get the potential form can go. Ikeru, can go. Since the potential form is a ru verb, ichidan verb, we can drop the ru and add nai. Nai, as a reminder, on its own is an adjective which means there isn't, to not exist. but is used also in combination with verbs to make the negative form of those verbs. And so in our case, can't go. But in this case, literally can't go implied can't go well. So this expression, if you eat, it can't go well, is actually an expression of prohibition. You shouldn't, you mustn't eat the bombs. And last but not least, we have the yo at the final sentence particle. In this case, it's like hey, to hey, you shouldn't eat the bombs. Or again, you shouldn't eat the bombs. You mustn't eat the bombs. And so yes, this is the explanation. By pressing the button, we open the mouth, Kirby's mouth wide. Because eggs and bombs fall, you have to catch skillfully only the eggs. You mustn't eat, literally, if you eat them, it can't go well. The bombs. You mustn't eat the bombs. And so these are the instructions for this minigame. We'll play it. You might recognize it, since if you have played Return to Dreamland Deluxe, and of course I've immediately lost. And yes, it's the same minigame from that game. It originated in this game, in Kirby's Adventure, and was back there. Okay, and with that, it's actually exactly more or less the time to stop the stream here, so we can close the game. Again, I'll just open it a second to see if it has saved. Yes, we are in level 2. This shows there. We finished level 1. Actually, the minigame is back, so next time we'll give it a try again. This time we'll try to win it, or at least do better. And of course, tackle stage 2. And from there, let's close the game. Let's close here. And yes, since I've mentioned, I've already mentioned what we'll do next time. Next time, which will be on Wednesday, as usual, the usual hour. Okay. See you next time.